Her reputation precedes her. With her arcane knowledge, this is a law mage who speaks from where the values of both black and white meet. Cunning, precise, intelligent, and deadly. After all, for the Orzhov, you really can take all your wealth with you after you die. And from that church of thought, she is the one and only ambassador. She is Teysa, Orzhov Scion. And if you make her your commander, then her inevitable victories will place you forever in her debt. Quite literally forever. Many players who build around Teysa try and go for a token strategy to dominate by force. But Teysa is a commander that can tap into amazing synergy and win through combo or leech effects to degrees of power that you get to determine. The most overt combo for Teysa is to pair her with Darkest Hour and some means of sacrifice. When your black creatures die, she replaces them with white spirit tokens. But with Darkest Hour in play, those spirit tokens will be black, meaning that when they die, Teysa will replace them with, that's right, black spirit tokens. Combined with something like Blasting Station and numerous other cards and combinations, Teysa can easily and early go infinite, winning the game or putting you in a position of inevitable victory. But what's also great about Teysa is that you can turn down the power of her deck for those times when you'd like to play against less competitive, spiky decks, by simply removing Darkest Hour, the key piece of the easiest and most powerful infinite combos. The deck is powered down enough to be played in a more fun-oriented environment. Even without Darkest Hour, it is still a very strong deck, but I love that it essentially has a switch from between really strong and overwhelmingly strong power levels. Let's start with Sacrifice. Blasting Station is a win condition with Darkest Hour and Teysa. If no one has an answer, we can do infinite damage to each opponent. While Sadistic Hypnotist is not an outright win condition, with Teysa and Darkest Hour we can have all opponents discard their entire hands. Phyrexian Altar provides us with colored mana, obviously infinite if both Teysa and Darkest Hour are in play. Ashnod's Altar gives you infinite colorless mana, but even when not going infinite, the fact that it gives you 2 can have many other synergistic interactions throughout the deck. Cartel Aristocrat is a cheap sack outlet for if we have our Darkest Hour combo in play. What about dyes or graveyard effects? Twilight Drover lets you get an infinite power and toughness creature if your combo is in play, and even without the combo can get big fast and even generate white spirits of its own. Invaluable to the church. Blood Artist plus Teysa and Darkest Hour and any sack outlet is a win condition, if no one has an answer. But again, even without the combo, you do so much sacrificing during a game that the life painted for you with the artist is invaluable. Suture Priest follows the same premise. With the combo, it's infinite life, but even without it, your opponents get a very nasty effect. Skull Clamp is pure draw. Attached to black creature, sack for 2 cards, get a spirit. Attached to spirit, sack spirit, draw 2 cards. This might as well say spend 1 and draw 2 cards. Great ways to dig for what you're looking for. Grim Horus Specs is also draw, and you don't even have to pay to get the effect, but it will only work with your non-creature tokens. Martyr's Bond and Grave Pact will keep the board clean. As you kill off your creatures, your opponents will be forced to do the same. Dark Prophecy gives you a Necropotence effect, trading a life for a card whenever a creature dies. Next, we have our Enter the Battlefield effects. Spirit Bonds can generate spirit tokens for Teysa and gives her much needed protection. Teysa will obviously see a lot of hate as soon as you bring her into play, so having something like Spirit Bonds around is a great way to protect her. Carnival of Souls could be included based solely on its flavor text, but the Woodhouse of the Multiverse is also vital to keep the mana flowing as you begin casting low-cost creatures. You'll be glad for the Carnival if you are low on land. Soul Warden is straight up life gain and very helpful for that early game crawl. Considering nearly everything in your deck and all tokens you'll create is power 2 or less, Mentor of the Meek might as well read pay 1 and draw a card. Recursion spells allow a player to return needed cards from her graveyard to her hand or library, allowing them to be reused. Recursion is just so important in this deck due to all the sacrifice outlets, enter the battlefield effects, etc. Our biggest player here is the Nim Death Mantle, which has many interactions and synergies throughout the deck. It's one of our best forms of recursion. For 4 mana, it can pull anything back from the graveyard, but here's what makes it amazing. It turns the creature black, meaning when it dies again, Teysa gives us a spirit. Those spirits can be sacrificed for mana, other things, bringing back our original creature with the Death Mantle. This is another way to go infinite even without Darkest Hour in many situations. Highly abusable and highly powerful. Speaking of Nim Death Mantle abuse, Revelark and Karmic Guide can be great for recursion by themselves, but combined with the mantle, they have amazing synergy. For example, the pairing of Karmic Guide and Revelark when Teysa and another black creature are in play can let us go infinite. Again, Darkest Hour not needed here. Reanimate is nice and cheap, and with so many creatures having low mana costs in this deck, you pay very little in life. Along those lines, Unearth works on just about anything as well. Now, I run Obsidat's Aid simply because I don't have a Yawgmoth's Will, but it fills a similar niche and has nice flavor to boot. Return to the Ranks and Faith's Reward can get either essential creatures or whole hordes back. Obviously, generating tokens is vital. There's so much love here, but nostalgia forces me to start with some creatures from the homelands and fallen empires, namely Sengir Autocrat and Endrick Sar. A thankless job and a death sentence besides. The Sengir Autocrat is 4 mana for 4 creatures. Perfect fodder. And speaking of fodder, Endrick Sar breeds them out for every creature cast. Sacrifice your newly bred babies before they hit 7, and you can keep casting and keep Endrick alive. More great synergy with so much of this deck. I'm usually not a fan of cards made exclusively for Commander, but Ophiomancer charmed me with its ancient arts and old school artwork. Getting a 1/1 each turn is reminiscent of Bitter Blossom, and the Death Touch is a bit of added protection if you fear opponents are considering attacking into you. Speaking of Bitter Blossom, I'd run it if I could afford it, but in the meantime, a Marsh Flitter is more marsh fodder, and Zombie Infestation lets you pitch your own dead wood for some zombies on the ground. Pawn of Ulamog will reward you for sacrificing non-token creatures by giving you another token creature to sacrifice, one that can even self-sack for a colorless mana. Along those same non-token lines, Ogre Slumlord lends out Death Touch Rats, another way to expedite victory. Zathrid Necromancer gives you zombies for humans, and since most of your non-token creatures are human, you'll get quite a lot of bang for your buck. Rotlung is more sack fodder, getting you at least 2 creatures for 3 mana. All of these creatures like Rotlung or Marsh Flitter become invaluable with Ashnod's Altar and other sacrifice outlets when there's some chance of recursion. For example, with the Nim Death Mantle, they can come back, be sacrificed for multiple mana to bring them back again, and go infinite without Darkest Hour. And finally, Nether Trader repays with itself, letting you return it to the battlefield for only a single black mana anytime anything of yours dies. Tutoring, a mainstay of most EDH commander decks, is of course vital for Teysa. Obviously, even if you are playing without the Darkest Hour combo, there's always essential pieces and essential answers you want to have access to. Tutors are vital for this, and given the recursion we just discussed, a Buried Alive tutors for 3 creatures to be thrown in your graveyard for later resurrection. Enlightened Tutor, still fairly affordable, is what you need to get the artifact artifacts and enchantments Teysa desires. Vampiric Tutor and Demonic Tutor grab anything you need and can do so early on in the game, while Stoneforge Mystic can grab the Nim Death Mantle or Skull Clamp. Finally, there's quite a selection of control and other utility cards. Meekstone is great for slowing down your opponents. Nothing you have should be affected by it. Along those same lines, Retribution of the Meek is a creature wipe that should have no effect on your board state. The Necrotic Sliver can be part of synergistic board wipe, but even on its own is a quick answer to any one problem. Martial Coup not only wipes the board clean, but can leave you with 5 or more tokens. Without the board wipe, it can still be a source of emergency fodder. Return to Dust is of course great artifact and/or enchantment control, and until they reprint Vindicate, Utter End will do just fine for our needs. Speaking of recent reprints, the inclusion of Smokestack in the recent From the Vault has put this in the realm of easier access. It's a great way to stall out the board as you get your perfect hand together. The deck should ideally have 2 Planeswalkers, the unlikely pair of Sorin and Elspeth, both united here through the Church of Orzhov. Both are largely here for token generation and to create another threat for our opponents to worry about. They both protect themselves by rising in loyalty as they spawn their tokens. Since we are in 2 colors, mana isn't the biggest worry. We do want to include the following, fairly standard in most decks at this point anyway. As far as accelerants are concerned, Chromatic Lantern, Everflowing Chalice, Mana Vault, Soul Ring, and of course an Orzhov Signet and Keyrune. As for your mana pool, again, we are only in 2 colors, and the standard array of Shockland, Scryland, Bounceland, and so on is par for the course. I've never much subscribed to putting fetch lands or original duels in commander decks, but the more hardcore or perhaps just wealthy among you can feel free to do so. Out of all of these, there's enormous leeway and variance. You need black and you need white, and you should be at 34 lands with this build. Teysa was a very, very early commander of mine. One of my first, in fact. But the deck never really came together until I found the following primer by Shanty on the MTG Salvation forums. While my list isn't 100% identical, Shanty's keen understanding of Teysa as a commander and his detailed discussion in the thread really helped solidify for me what a Teysa commander deck wants to do and how it goes about doing it. You should absolutely go check out his primer in the link provided. If this video is a community college classroom, then his primer is Graduate Studies in Teysa Commander. I hope this video has been of some help to you. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, and for those in the Church of Orzhov, may all your debts be paid, and may all your debtors pay.